Chris Wood is our VP of Mobility. So, you guys have met Kobe, who's our VP of Cloud. We have Brandon, who's now Sam Nelson, Contact Center. We have Shane Speakman for UCaaS. So, we have these 5 technologies: UCaaS, CCaaS, Cloud, Mobility, and Security, I think it is. I think it's all 5, where we have leaders of each of these categories. So Chris is responsible for kind of leading the mobility practice across the country for Telarus. So overall, mobility has had a really good year with Telarus. It's growing every month. So I'm glad you guys want to learn more about it. I know he sent out a little survey beforehand. Hopefully you guys got that, just to kind of give him an idea of kind of where to take this. But anyway, Chris, I'll turn it over to you. This is the crew from Unified Technologies down in the great Louisville, Kentucky, and some in Lexington. So Bourbon Country. So I'll let you take it from here.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Again, thanks to those that saw the last minute survey. It was just kind of this last minute thought. I was like, wait a minute. I've definitely heard of you guys. I know you guys are making it happen, but I was like, I'd like to get a little more information. So I could share that real quick with you, just to kind of let everybody see what we're talking about here. Let's do it this way. So yeah, but I'm out of North Georgia, about an hour north of Atlanta. So I'm a native Georgian, but I cover kind of as an overlay for the entire Telarus ecosystem, which is awesome. So interesting. It's really nice to see, between a 5 and a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being expert. You guys have a great base to build on. That's a good, healthy spot to be, with a couple of 8s, which is great. IoT, by the way, I would say both of these categories, mobility, when you say mobility, it means a lot of different things to different people. And generally, yes, a SIM card's involved. And when you say IoT, another broad area, it's kind of like talking about, the cloud or VoIP or something. I'll use different subcategories. We're going to touch on those. And I love number 4, what's your goal? And it's a little bit of both, obviously. When I had these kind of calls with partners, it's like either, well, Chris, I just want to know what to look for. So when I bump into it, I don't dismiss it or miss it, even worse. Or I am going to create a role, or it's going to be part of my team's, quota to have a mobility IoT revenue number to hit. So it's very intentional. It's either I don't want to miss it, or it's going to be, I'm going to go out hunting for it. So both are good answers. There's no wrong answer there, I feel like. And then, of course, what verticals are you working in? Both of these categories have some sweet spots, and we'll talk about that. Just real quick, I probably should have asked, if you chose other, what would that category be? So I don't know if you can recall, if you chose other, does anyone want to come off mute and identify what those verticals were?
Well, this is Tyler. I chose other because I've sold in every category there.
Oh, very good. Good answer. All right. Did someone else choose other? Was there a vertical I didn't list? Jeopardy music playing. Okay.
I chose other. I chose other just because I don't really sell to any one specific category.
Good answer. Okay. Again, no wrong answer. I just want to make sure I didn't leave anything out if there was a specific vertical.
Chris, if I can kind of just wrap around it, we do a lot of things with financial institutions, whether they're banks or credit unions. We've got some good logistic companies that we take care of.
Okay.
And then obviously healthcare is a big vertical for us. Retail is probably a less vertical for us, only because we find that's a market that may be a little more difficult. So you may educate us something today that retail would mean something with mobility.
Okay. Excellent. Well, let me open that up here and we'll jump in. There we go. So if you have speaking of mobility, if you have your smartphone handy, if you want to scan that QR code, I'll have it again at the end. It's just an opportunity for you to store my contact information. I have a bunch of links in there. I have a podcast called The Wireless Way with over 55 interviews with a lot of thought leaders and suppliers and partners around these topics. So if you're a podcast person, that I would be honored to have you as a listener, and also have a link to a 1-pager PDF of all the suppliers in this space of mobility and IoT. just to, you know,
Good idea there, Chris. I like that.
yeah, I have a good idea every now and then, My wife tells me it's just every now and then. So, you know, just in turn, you know, this, but looking at the last 4 years, we're just seeing
It's not in presentation mode, by the way, Chris.
what's that?
It's not in presentation mode. I don't know if you want it to be in presentation mode.
I must be on the wrong screen. Yeah, I wanted to be in presentation mode. Let's see here. Go back to, you think I do this for 11, but, let's share the right screen here then. My mouse is not cooperating with me, it seems. Here we go. Get the right screen. When you got 3 screens, I shared the wrong one. It's always fun. All right, are we better?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, just real quick, seeing big growth. This is predominantly mobility numbers. You can see I actually shared this with our advisory council. Didn't change the logo there, but just explosive growth, mostly, you know, 80–90% of this is in the mobility area. And I'm going to talk to you, you know, what does that mean? I'll hit both mobility and IoT. But just for the sake of kind of setting the table, and I hope we can have the back half of this conversation be more interactive and questions. And by the way, interrupt me. I mean, it's a small enough group. If you see something, you know, Chris, you kind of glossed over it, I need to know more, call that out, and we can always have follow-up conversations one-on-one as needed. But for this year, Jason Kaufman, by the way, I'm going to call out to him. Jason Kaufman is on our engineering team. He works with JW, but he's kind of my subject matter expert when it comes to more technical aspects of IoT mobility. So, you know, make a note there if you know, working with JW, or you can just go, you know, copy both him, Jason Kaufman, Jay Kaufman at Telarus.com. He's just a invaluable resource, over 50-something certifications, smart dude, and he's funny. Good sense of humor. I always love an engineer with a good sense of humor. But the kind of the top 7 areas we've been seeing mostly a lot of quotes and closures on in the IoT space, AI video. You know, I like to think about a lot of those verticals. I mean, any business nowadays has cameras, and one of the downsides of cameras is, you know, generally no one's really watching the screen. And the benefit of a camera is it records an accident after it's happened in case you want to take it to legal or whatnot. So with AI video, and Claro Enterprises and Epic IO come to mind as the top 2 suppliers that really have solutions here. In most cases, they can take the existing camera ecosystem or you know, platform they have and insert a box, if you will, a server computer, where the video feed is fed through this additional piece of equipment. And now it has computer vision, where you can set up geo fences, you know, around certain parts of a parking lot, where anytime someone walks or drives into this area, create an alert to the security person or to whomever. You know, again, it's all very customizable, even to the point of you've probably seen and heard of license plate recognition. You know, so even for retail, if there were the whole pick up at the curb kind of thing, we had loyalty programs where customers can, you know, create their account, say, yeah, I'm driving a red Ford Mustang with Georgia tags, whatever. As soon as it pulls up, it alerts, hey, Chris is here to pick up his stuff, so I don't have to wait too long. But even facial recognition is, you know, the scary part, but it's been here for a long time. It's just it's been in the shadows, if you will. But we actually have scenarios where if an employee, if it's a business where, say, a security clearance is required, for example, an employee's fired because they were stealing information or did something unethical. Well, you know, that employee's mugshot, if you will, our employee photo is in the system going, hey, if Chris Whitaker shows up in their parking lot, alert security because he's not supposed to be here. And you know, I've even seen some cases where that even goes to like private schools or school systems. Maybe there's a custody battle going on and someone's not supposed to pick up this child. Facial recognition, it alerts, hey, don't let this person, you know, it alerts the right people. Don't let this person check out this child. Gun recognition, knife recognition, machete recognition. So there's just now it makes videos proactive and can alert people of things. So that's again, that kind of that we could talk an hour on that. Smart buildings, just to kind of move on. Any questions on video? moving on to smart buildings, I actually have some partners that have made this a very intentional effort of just going after all the real estate property management companies, property owner companies in terms of, air quality sensor, power monitoring, water leak detection. You think about even in apartment complexes, assisted living, hospitals, anywhere where there may be a water heater, or if there's a small leak somewhere, it would cause a lot of issues and problems. Let's face it, anytime water's leaking somewhere, it doesn't end well in some format. Even adding EV chargers, you see, is the last one. A lot of property owners are, scrambling to be more competitive and make people want to come to their strip malls or stay at their hotels. So adding EV chargers is making these smart properties and these smart buildings more competitive. In fact, a lot of the real estate companies that own these buildings are getting a break on their real estate insurance by having water detection. Again, all the myriad of solutions and security. Think about physical security, even. I mean, that, again, not a new solution per se, but it's kind of newer to our ecosystem of partners being able to sell a physical security as a service. Total bundled, includes the help desk and the call center, from badge access to doors, and implementing video surveillance as well. Panic buttons, not real exciting, but it's a hot one. It seems, I think there's up to 9 states now that are requiring hospitality. I think about housekeepers, housekeeping in hotel motels. Lone workers is another term they're used. The lone workers, they're on the 5th floor, working by themselves all day, and they have a medical emergency, or worse yet, they get assaulted. It happens more. It just doesn't make the news. It happens more than you would think. But this is kind of like I'm falling, I can't get up, but on steroids. So instead of just having a bi-directional, hey, I need help, you don't have to say a word. There's Bluetooth beacons in every room, in every hallway, every mop closet. So whichever one they're closest to, when they activate the button, it can be a pendant, it can be a wearable, it can be a bracelet, a button on the cart. It lets up the other end, and at the other end could be the front desk, it could be the on-site security person, and depending on the circumstance, it may even be automatically dials 911, and it lets them know exactly where they are, what room they're in, what floor they're in. And we're seeing this same solution being rolled out to education. Some schools now are putting this in every classroom for the teachers. Moving on, real-time location services is what healthcare is. I put healthcare there because this is where we're seeing this most often. Generally around 300 beds is the size of the hospital that generally benefits from this. Real-time location services. So you think about everything in a hospital is on wheels, IVs, stands, EKG machines, X-ray machines, beds. All these things get moved around, and a nurse can spend up to an hour and a half of their shift just looking for equipment. And this is literally could be life or death. So using, in some cases, video surveillance, the AI is smart enough to recognize what devices are moving around, RFID, Bluetooth sensors. There's several different types of technology that can help keep up with this stuff and actually show them on a smartphone app where that wheelchair is they're looking for, or better yet, alerting that, hey, that EKG machine is not supposed to leave the 5th ward or the OBGYN, category, whatever. That equipment needs to stay in that sector. As soon as it rolls through that threshold, it's going to alert somebody going, hey, you need to go check your device that you use, once a day or once an hour. It's just rolling down the hallway to another department. There may be a good reason. Fleet management is another area that we're seeing uptick in, with supply chain being what it is, logistics, going back to whole logistics. Anybody with a warehouse, with forklifts, delivery trucks, or maybe if not even delivery trucks, it could be actually sedan cars. Think about Orkin or some of these folks who just go around, they do price quotes. If it's a fleet of vehicles, it could be as easy as a little plug-in OBD device, or an actual hardwired, harness that can track, telematics, have a camera on the driver, camera facing outward, camera in the cargo set area to see if anything is, mysteriously disappearing while it's en route. Theft prevention is a problem in some cases for certain logistic companies. But we have Spirion, a direct relationship with them, and they can pretty much do just about anything in the space. And it's, again, it helps you go deeper into your account. So as we talk about these, think about all your accounts you're working with. And maybe these are categories that you have never asked about, but the nature of their business, and maybe there's opportunity there. Agriculture, I don't think anyone clicked on that, but again, that's when we're seeing a lot of technology going into agriculture. Farmers, even corporate farmers, it's hard times for them right now. They're all trying to grow as much as they can and control their expenses. And we know the cost of diesel and even the labor shortages affecting agriculture. So anywhere where you can solve problems, business problems using technology. I mean, there's more than 7 categories. These are just the 7 that we've seen the most of. So agriculture, we could talk more about that. Epic.io does a lot in that space as well. Epic.io does a lot. I feel like I've had a lot of success working with them, as well as Claro and Modus. Speaking of Modus, number 7 EV chargers. They're the
Can I just
ones.
step in, Chris? Sorry, Chris, real quick. I just want to interrupt. You guys are in Louisville and Lexington. I mean, can't horses use IoT devices to keep track of where they are? I think that'd be a thing. Maybe keep track of their temperature to make sure they're not getting sick. There's all kinds of things that could be used in that space for with IoT. Am I right, Chris?
Absolutely. And I'm just checking my time again. We're good till what, 1:30?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm sorry. I got distracted. I just panic all of a sudden that I'm going too long. So yeah, Anton, if you could help police me in my timing and tell me when we need to
Okay,
move
no
on.
problem. You're good.
Yeah, I know you're good at that.
Anyway, I
yes.
just want to point out the horses, and since we're talking about Kentucky here.
Yes. Well, we even had a solution. It was called Stalemate or Stale Monitor. It's something to do with Stallmate, I think it was. But anyway, it was this guy. He created this box for the horses, all the racehorses. A lot of them were in Kentucky, where as they traveled around from racetrack to racetrack, they could just hang this box in the stall, and it had a camera in it, and it had a cradle point in it. And it would, take pictures like every, 30 seconds or 1 minute, however you want it. Because streaming video is very difficult from a data perspective. But it was a pretty cool solution that he just sold it as a complete, the box, the camera, the gateway, the data plan, etc. But that's a good point, Anton. The EV chargers, digital signage, this is a real interesting one. Again, for anywhere where there's a parking lot, if you have customers that own a parking lot, have a strip mall, are even if they don't want to do the chargers, just digital signage alone. Historically, digital signage has not been in our portfolio, or anyone's for that matter. But this is the digital signage. It comes bundled with the ad service, which means the end user, your customer, gets ad revenue, and so does your organization. So partner gets paid, end user gets paid, and it's it's digital signage as a service. And they bundle it and hook these digital signages onto the actual EV chargers. So they're plugged in with a lot of every state, county, and federal. There's a lot of tax credits. There's a lot of infrastructure money. There's a big push to get EV chargers out into the market because there's not enough of them. And granted, yes, there's another conversation. Can the power grid even support them? That's another webinar. We don't help that area too much. But the reality is, it's a great opportunity for anyone that has a parking spot or buildings that they want to make extra money on and make themselves more competitive. Any questions on any of those before you move on to mobility? Does this resonate? Is any surprises there? Has anyone sold any of those 7 in the past year? Or maybe had an opportunity to sell? Maybe.
I have some AI video opportunities, but going through a camera manufacturer at the moment.
Excellent. Is the opportunity in the sense that they want to get more value out of the video solution?
Yeah, be able to pull analytics and have the AI. It's like tracking the cars, tracks the make, model, color.
Yep.
So if they have an incident with a red car,
yep,
but they don't know the license plate, that it'll capture all that.
Yep. The Claro solution does exactly that. They have like over 300 makes and models of cars already preloaded. So it's just a drop down. You can say, I'm looking for a red Ford Mustang or white BMW. And yeah, it'll find every instance, how far back do you want to look? Every time something drove through that video view, it finds it. Yeah. So it's really cool. A lot of HOAs are doing this. Now we're seeing more and more of that. gated communities, HOAs, apartment complexes, even office parking complexes for that reason. Good point there.
Logan, let me know if you needed an introduction to Jason Kaufman, the engineer that Chris mentioned. We'll be happy to help you out with that if you need it.
Kind of changing gears here again, just setting the table more of what we're seeing. Mobility, I kind of define mobility, anything with a SIM card in it, from a smartphone, watch, tablet, gateway, or some type of IoT device. This is another reason why you kind of see these two conversations, even though it's like American football and rugby. I mean, from a distance, they look similar, but they're very different. Some mobility does overflow into IoT, but the 7 categories that I wouldn't necessarily say are IoT, but are pure mobility. Obviously, managed mobility. This is think of any company that has at least 100 employees. This is really a sweet spot where it begins, is around 100 employees or 100 devices. It could be 50 employees and they all have a corporate owned smartphone and tablet, for example. Or maybe it's a retail store and they have 50 locations with 50 gateways for wireless backup. And they also have, all their management team has, cell phones. So 100 devices ballpark is really the sweet spot for managed mobility. And it takes it outsources everything. Auditing the bill is probably the biggest area. So many big companies, they just pay the bill, $30,000 a month. As long as it doesn't go over that, we just pay it, because that bill is 100 pages long. No one's going to go through it. Things are missing is, the Great Resignation. Employees are coming and going. No one's turning off these phones, and they're just paying for them. A lot of money tied up there. So managed mobility kind of takes care of all that. Manages the bill, manages the actual devices. They drop ship them to the employee's home. They tie in with HR. Again, if they're a big enough company to have that many, they probably have some type of HR software. So the minute alert is created that an employee has been terminated or quit, it creates a ticket, goes back to managed mobility going, hey, send this employee a box, an empty box, going, hey, mail your phone, your device back to us. And here's a box, just put it in there and drop it in. We'll take care of shipping. Help desk, etc.
Can I ask a couple questions around that?
Please.
So prior to us selling cloud, we had, different people we work with would do carrier audits for us. And I did sell managed mobility back then. I have a couple of deals that it cost justified because their mobility expense was so high. So if we've qualified, we have an opportunity, do we bring you in, Chris, and you will help us do a discovery? Or are we bringing in the partner or supplier?
Right. Again, no wrong answer. I will say there's only one of me, so I hate to hold up anything. So Anton, and his team could answer that for you. And JW, all the sales engineers are pretty well versed on managed mobility, because that's kind of now becoming like an off the shelf thing. VMOX has done great work for us. Go Exceed, Wireless Watchdogs, just to name a few. Of course, Mettel and Granite play in that space when you source the hardware from them as well. But yeah,
it's the same process, CC, as if it's a cloud deal or a UCaaS deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just get me, Cody, JW involved. JW is sort of an expert generalist, so he knows a lot about all the different technologies. If we really wanted to get deep into it, that's when we bring in this guy, Jason Kaufman, that he's mentioned. So he's kind of the expert solution architect when it comes to mobility, but the process is the same.
And they'll do a financial analysis, right? They'll take the customer's bill copies and then figure out what the best option is. Okay, we don't have to.
Wireless Watchdog does. Wireless
That's right.
Suppliers he's mentioned, so they'll let you know which phones are still on that shouldn't be, or maybe they're on unlimited plans that they're only using 1 gig. And so to your point, CC, save money that way, and then opens up spending in other areas.
And is the customer signing like an LOA for them to go into those accounts and do that research?
Yeah, in most cases, right.
Okay.
Or even creating a login on if they have a carrier portal. I mean, they just a lot of these suppliers just need to be able to access and do an API and to pull down data. And you bring up a good point. A good way to start these conversations is just asking the question, hey, I know you're a big company. How do you guys handle mobility in your company? Who manages that for you? Who audits your bills? How responsive are the carriers being? Especially a lot of those 100+, a lot of them are going straight to the carriers because of the assumption they're going to get better service, better rates. And that's just usually not the case. Going through an aggregator is pretty much all cases I find just as cost effective, and you get way much better support. So something to think about. And if they say, yo, yeah, it's a real pain, I don't want to talk about it, it's just a pain in my neck, if you could help me, that'd be great. If they get to that point, just okay, great. Well, to get this started, if you could just send me a PDF copy of your last bill, that
Okay.
really that expedites the conversation. Just say, hey, look, I'm going to have one of our analysts review this bill, and we'll come back to you and set up a follow-up call, and we'll have a presentation for you. So yeah, if you go to one of those companies I mentioned, like VMOX or Wireless Watchdogs or Go Exceed, yes, or Advantix, they'll do an analysis going, hey, if you were our customers on this given month, and it's usually 20 to 30% savings. I mean, in most cases, it's like a no-brainer. It's the quickest close you can have, because again, you got the CFO on the call or whoever's in charge of that account at the end user, and they're saying, wait a minute, we overpaid how much? In fact, I've had scenarios where the customer told the partner later, hey, look, man, you kind of got me in hot water, because it was my job to keep an eye on that. And I missed it. I didn't even know. It's like, hey, it's not your fault. I mean, it's a 100-page bill. I mean, who's going to go line by line? You ain't got time. So that's why it's really important to have that outsource.
So that would include your tablet, your cell phone, potentially your tablet, right? If you're using.
Absolutely.
And would it also include like an air card? Some of my customers have like an air card they travel with.
Right. Or a hotspot,
Data card
MiFi.
or hotspot. Yeah. Would it
Right.
include that endpoint as well?
Absolutely. If it's
Okay.
a SIM card, with the number attached to it, they can track it.
Okay.
So the managed mobility is a little different than number 5. Wireless expense is just pure financial. That's, hey, we're just going to take care of your money. But the number 1 managed mobility is not only we're going to take care of your money, but we're going to take care of your devices. When someone quits, we'll get it back. We'll sanitize it. We'll take all the data off. We'll put a new case on it. We put it back on your shelf. So the next hire comes on, we'll drop ship them. So the managed mobility is soup to nuts. That's really just about everything, even putting screen protectors on and taking those help desk calls. And they can also white label the portal. So if it's a big enough company, yeah, they'll make it, it's just another link on their internal employee portal, where they would open up tickets or whatnot. And they can put their logo on and make it very end user centric.
I got a quick, and I'm sorry if you already said this, what's the minimum number of users for
Most
that?
of them are going to be around 100.
Okay.
It's
So
not
like
huge.
100 devices. So like
100
tablets,
devices, 100 devices.
any kind of fleet information, like
yes.
tracking device. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, if it's a gateway and a truck thing, 100 SIMs really seems to be the magic number, because at that point too, it's easier to show the ROI. Below that number, generally it's hard to get someone even, they can kind of manage it.
Yeah. Team, any of our energy companies, I think this would be important for, because they've got a lot of technicians out in the field that use cellular.
Yep. And even helps manage, because you look at a fleet of say 100 electricians or linemen, or delivery people, whatever. 80% of them are going to be fine. 80% are going to be using exactly what it's for. But you're always going to have that 20% that's watching Netflix, streaming the game live on their corporate device, and it's just racking up those overage fees. And a lot of companies don't have the insight to look into the data to see, oh gosh, if we just talk to those 2 or 3 employees, or maybe even with an MD mobile device management software put on there where we block those sites, because hey, this is a work phone. It's not meant for you to watch the game while you're waiting on your lunch break or whatever. So that's what it's all about, is being more efficient and effective. Those are really my big buzzwords: E&E, efficiency and effectiveness. I think those are always kind of a good open-ended question. Hey, how efficient and effective do you think your business is? Could it be more efficient and effective? And I've never met a business owner that goes, oh yeah, I'm good, I can't be any more efficient or effective. Everyone wants to be more efficient and effective. Cellular backup is the easiest sell. I mean, this doesn't, most people sell this and don't even consider it mobility, but it has a gateway with a SIM card or 2 or 3 in it. So anywhere where you're selling coax, the cable companies, this is an easy add-on, because we know cable companies is great, it's affordable, it's fast, but hey, it has its network issues, right? Like any landline for that matter. But if it's mission critical internet usage, cellular backup's an easy add-on in most cases. And yes, it can be vehicle mounted, to your point, Cece. I mean, a lot of those utility companies do have gateways in there because they're always online. That's their office. That driver's seat is his office or her office. SIM only, something to be looking out for too, you know, especially in those logistics and manufacturing. There's a lot of these IoT devices that have SIMs in them. They may have multiple carriers. They may have one. Again, it kind of goes back to how responsive is the carrier to your needs? How well are you managing this ecosystem? Or for companies that are growing and expanding, and maybe they're in a predominantly an ATT area, but they are buying companies throughout the country or sometimes the world, the eSIM, a single SIM solution. I feel like every 3 or 4 months, we take a step forward in technology where you can have a single SIM that's just going to connect to the strongest signal. So depending on the use case, generally data only use cases, meaning not for cell phones or voice conversations, unless you're talking over a UCAS app. But SIM only, we're seeing a lot of that, especially in the healthcare. You know, think about a lot of remote patient monitoring, glucose monitors, even, you know, any kind of medical device, blood pressure monitoring. You see even scales, you know, have these SIMs in them, and they're usually ordering tens of thousands at a time because they're putting them in the device as they ship them out to the end user. Managed Wi-Fi. This is an exciting one too. I mean, there's a point where I think we all just expect Wi-Fi to be everywhere, right? I mean, in fact, the only thing worse than no Wi-Fi is bad Wi-Fi. And the only thing worse than bad Wi-Fi is dumb Wi-Fi. So most of people, we log into what I would just call dumb Wi-Fi. It's just a SSID. You log onto it and you're online. But what if that business user, owner, end user could, you know, get a lot of analytics from it? You know, who's there, how often they come back, what part of the store. And this is really more of a retail use case, or even a school, college campus use case, any kind of large area where you have a lot of users. There's now technology that can extract, you know, who this person is. It might not know it's Chris Whitaker, but it knows it's my phone has been there and it keeps coming back. And if I, you know, do log on, and then they can start pushing coupons to me or advertisements to try to get me to come back to buy more. We know we haven't seen you in a while. I'd love to come back. Here's 10% off coupon. So managed Wi-Fi is a hot one because, you know, going back to everyone just expects it to be everywhere, and having bad Wi-Fi is almost an insult. So if it's not getting the analytics, it's just ensuring that the signal is strong. And if we've actually had, think about movie theaters, it's become the dine-in theater where they don't want to install the infrastructure and all the seats. They just say, hey, if you're watching a movie, open up your app and you can order a beer or some chips or a corn dog, whatever. But the Wi-Fi is poor, then it's gonna be a poor customer experience. So just know that Wi-Fi is so much more than what we thought it was in the last few years. It's really becoming a part of marketing plans and customer experience plans. Already touched on wireless expense a little bit, but again, that's just an easy one. Hey, who's managing your wireless and mobility expenses today? Are you confident that you're not being overcharged? Easy question. I would tell you, if they're doing it in-house, it's always a pain point. And 9 out of 10 are going to be like, yeah, it's a headache. You know, nobody wants to sign off on it. We just pay the bill because we don't have time to audit it. So that could be an easy layup. Signal optimization, another area that's overlooked a lot. You know, again, we've all been in that office building where you walk in the front door and you go from 4 bars to maybe no bars, and you're expecting that important phone call. So there's a solution called Cell-Fi, and it is with Granite. And again, I like to tell people Granite and MetTel both have built their business on selling landlines and dial tone, but their mobility practices are almost separate companies under that umbrella. I mean, it's a different entity practically. So, but the signal optimization is just a cool opportunity to they put in an antenna on the roof, and they just kind of do a distributive antenna system, actually just expand and optimize that signal all the way down to the basement. So in
That's
certain
quick.
situations, that might be hot.
Do you guys ever sell into like apartment buildings, that type of thing?
MDUs.
Yeah, MDU kind of that.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that signal optimization could be good for that. So a lot of times buildings are built and all of a sudden the building's up and running and you can't get a signal in there. So you can put a booster on each floor, which just boosts the signal. I think it'll work for any of the major carriers. And it's a way that these companies will attract tenants. So they want to make sure their cell phone signal is strong. So just know that's available. I don't think that's as a service though. That's like a one-time thing.
It can be, they now made it where it can be OpEx, because it can be,
Okay.
yeah, if it's a big enough building, it could be $500,000, $750,000. And some people want to pay for that up front, but if they can't, they can put it on a payment plan, and that way it's a
Okay.
residual commission.
And
the
is it
company-
is it connected to the carrier or to the cell phone company?
It's basically receiving the cell signal, whatever signal's on the roof. So if Verizon is really poor in that area anyway, it's not gonna make Verizon any better. But if
Okay.
Verizon and AT&T are really strong, and they're basically grabbing the signal from the roof and pumping it through the building via, Ethernet cables and repeaters, if you will.
And,
So
and
you're
the-
buying.
So they don't have to have a relationship. They
Okay,
don't,
that's my
yeah, they don't
question.
call
Okay.
Verizon and coordinate this. They're really just taking it straight from the cell tower.
and a
the-
company will pay anything for that, right? Because once they've got the building up and the signal doesn't work, they'll do whatever it takes to make it
Yeah.
work. So that also could be kind of a layup-y sort of a thing.
And do these companies do a proof of concept generally or no?
Well, they'll come down and do a site visit, because once you install it, yeah, you have to, before they'll even install it, you gotta have the signed contract, but they'll come out and do a site visit and kind of tell you what to expect, and have SLAs involved with it and all. But it's technology. It literally grabs the signal and pumps it out through the whole building, so it optimizes and enhances that signal. But yeah, it's
So
worth the
how-
conversation. In
how-
fact, they'll even charge for the site survey, so it's an investment. But again, the pain point's bad enough. It's again, it's like how much is pain worth to somebody? If your whole sales force has cell phones and they're, no one's giving out. In fact, no one really has desk phones anymore. Yeah, if your cell phone's not ringing in the building, that's a problem. You're probably losing money. So
Yeah, PowerNet provides those. They do a lot of those in their MDUs here in Cincinnati. So
and last but not least, has everyone been made aware, maybe you've even sold a POTS line replacement type service? It's been around for a couple of years. It's really come to a head now. Just this past August, the FCC, it's totally unregulated now. The phone companies don't have to maintain them. There's no price controls on them. I mean, we have customers paying $800 up for a single POTS line, for an elevator line or a fax machine. I'm still amazed at how many companies still use fax machines in the legal and healthcare and law enforcement business industry. Fax machines are still used. So another question to ask, if you do a QBR or you do an account review with any of your existing customers, hey, have you guys dealt with your POTS lines? Are you guys still using POTS lines? Maybe because you might have sold them to them. But if it's a new account, you don't know much about them. It's kind of a good discovery question. Hey, what are you guys doing about the POTS line? I see you're in a 5-story building, your elevator lines. How are you managing that? Because a lot of times a lot of end users don't even think about it. So one of two things happen. They get a letter from the AT&T or Verizon going, hey, we're not supporting this anymore. In fact, the bill is going up. Or they just stop working one day. Because we've all been at a red light, and you look in the corner, that central office or that phone network interface where the doors are open, all the twisted pairs are in there, and it just feels like it's exploded. They're not even repairing these things anymore, it seems. So your POTS line replacement, again, there's probably a half dozen good solutions out there. It just depends on what the use case is and how many lines you're looking for, and that's where our engineering team can kind of help do some assessments there for you. Any questions there? Excellent. Just a few, I got 3 use cases. I mean, we could go use case you to death, but I think, sometimes use cases are helpful. Again, retail, one thing about retail, especially large national retail, they're big, 650 locations, which these kind of deals just fell out of the sky every week, but they're out there. Someone's selling them. Cloud-based point of sale, using UCaaS, had coax, had a lot of the sites were having outages. Again, this sounds familiar. We've all heard these stories. Again, customer needs, right? Dream situation, always on internet. Make sure the customer experience was exceptional and remain PCI compliant, because this particular customer, their process was, when the internet was down, is to write down the credit card numbers. So when the internet came back up, they could go run these charges. Well, that's you can't do that. You're not supposed to be writing down people's credit card numbers. You throw it in the trash and someone else gets it. Now you got this ID theft thing going on. Not to mention, when the internet does come back on and you run the credit card and it's declined, well, the product and the customer are gone now. So it's like a double whammy. So the Epic IO was able to deliver and deploy and install is a big note there, because a lot of them will do some self-install stuff, saves you a little bit of money. But believe it or not, people can install these things incorrectly and they not work well. And then they think it's a bad solution, but they just didn't install it properly. And they put dual carrier. I mean, there was an AT&T and a Verizon, or T-Mobile and Verizon, whichever ones were the two dominant carriers in that area. And they'll determine that. They know where they have all the heat maps. And of course, it met their need. They never witnessed and noticed another outage. So that was a pretty cool one. $33,000 MRC. I love this one from an IoT. And IoT use cases are tricky because it's a slippery slope, because there's literally thousands of them. And of course, we can't talk about all 1,000 of them, but just understanding the efficiency and the effectiveness and helping customers identify problems that historically we didn't think telecom or IT could fix. And this is a good one. It was an amusement park, 250 trash cans, and they had 12 employees walking the park, making sure the trash cans were not overflowing. Again, you pay a lot of money for these amusement parks. No one wants to see, you would go to throw something away and it's overflowing. There's bees and flies everywhere and it smells. No one likes that. And in fact, the agent uncovered it by going, "Hey, what kind of problems are you really struggling with right now?" And he goes, "I honestly, the labor shortage is killing me. I don't have enough employees to even make sure my trash cans aren't overflowing." He goes, "Oh, really?" And this particular partner just attended an IoT boot camp like 2 weeks prior. And we talked about this use case. So it's kind of one of those perfect alignment of the stars. So by deploying a bin waste sensor, which is tied to the cloud app, and it went from 12 employees to 3 employees monitoring these trash cans. In fact, they weren't monitoring the trash cans. They're monitoring the smartphone app, because the app tells them, "Hey, this one's half full. This one's 3/4 full." And it prioritized all the trash cans on what sectors go attack first. And another benefit of this solution, not only was it helping them know where to empty the trash cans, but by having that intel of which trash cans were filled the fastest. And this trash can on average takes 4 hours to fill up, where this one's filling up every hour. What does that tell you? You probably need more trash cans, so it helped them have that better customer experience by just having the actionable intel. By the way, another thing he said was they noticed a correlation between how fast the trash cans were filling up and how dirty the restrooms were in that area. So it kind of gave them more information. All the stuff was never being thought about before they had this conversation of going, "Hey, what kind of problems are you having and how can I help you?" But most cases, IoT, in some cases, mobility can make a company more efficient and effective and get more productivity out of their employees. Moving on, this is one with Modus. There's actually a CBD store, another retail location, 100 locations, $22,000. The partner had a $70,000 upfront commission one time for the hardware. EV chargers are a one-time fee, and they're anywhere between $5 and $20,000 a pop. And almost every case, the end user don't have to pay for these devices because of all the infrastructure money and the tax credits. There's just a lot of incentives to deploy these. And Modus is tied in. They know exactly. Their goal is the end user doesn't pay for this. That's the goal. But you get paid on the commission of the cost. So the EV charging station by themselves, there is no residual, because it is currently a CapEx purchase. But the residual kicks in with the digital signage, because that is where the ads revenue is being pushed to these digital signages. This particular one didn't have the EV chargers, I don't believe. No, actually it did. But they put some of the digital signages in the actual store, and they gave a list when they did the onboarding, hey, to the ad agency, "Hey, look, here's 24 of our top brands that we sell in our store." And they went out and contacted them and sold them spots. And of course, you can even put some of your own advertising in the cycle of digital ads. So if you want to promote your own store or your own business, or maybe even the bar next door has happy hour. I mean, it's almost endless what you can do with that. So that was an interesting way that they were making themselves more competitive. They were creating an actual revenue source by deploying this solution. So, that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. I usually do this in like 2 days, but I wanted to kind of set the table because every conversation I have, I feel like I'm hoping that something jumped out at you where you thought, okay, yeah, actually there's one customer I have in mind that I should go back to. And that's CC where I can, if you do want to have a deeper conversation of what would it look like, if we were to make this an actual intentional effort to go after these business opportunities, I can help strategize there, and even escalations in some cases. If you have a customer, in fact, usually here's how I get used the most. Chris, this is my number one client. We bill $500,000 a month to them. This can't go bad. And so you got Anton looking at it, you got the engineer looking at it, and I come over the top and I go straight to the CEO and the VP of the company going, hey, look, I need all hands on deck. I need your commitment that we're not going to mess with this. This is your deal to win, but you can't screw it up. So sometimes just having that additional talk with the supplier, I feel it can go a long way. And especially a lot of these suppliers, sometimes I see a lot of deals every week and every month. So for me to say this one particular one needs a special, white glove treatment, that can help. So any questions, any thoughts? I know we got plenty of time here. Is that helpful, or did you want to go into more?
Hey, Chris, it's Mike Gabhart. I want to get a practical case study from you. So earlier you mentioned when we do the evaluation on the mobility spend, you can find 20 to 30% savings in some cases. What is the most, how big is that deal? How much spend do they have to have for you to even consider finding that kind of savings? We're getting ready to do a marketing push on combating inflation, and it's going to be about savings we can deliver. So I'm thinking I want to include something about that, but give me a little bit more ammunition there.
Yeah. Well, first, before I forget, actually at 4:00 this afternoon Eastern time, I'm having VMOX on a webinar. I'll send it out to you guys if you can make it, and I'll record it. If you can't make it, I'll send you the recording. So I'm gonna have VMOX. That's exactly what he's going to be talking about. And generally, that it with 100 devices, it can be in the thousands of dollars, in 5 to 10, sometimes 30 to 50,000. I mean, it just depends on the data size and how they're handling the hardware. I mean, it's a kind of a wide range from 5,000 to 50,000 or more. But that 20 to 30% is just a solid number. We just keep seeing over and over from the fact either they're, as Anton mentioned, the phone companies did a great job convincing all of us that unlimited data plans is the best savings you could possibly get. Well, the truth is, you got some employees that sit at their desk all day and they don't even use that much data, but they're paying $175 a month for something they could probably spend $30 a month for and still be fine. So that's where that optimization, looking at all their users, what data plans are on, because a lot of companies, when they're managing themselves into the person that's managing the account at the end user, every 6 to 12 months, that person's a different person, right? So no one's keeping up with what kind of contracts are negotiating, or they're just going to give me whatever the promotion is this month. I mean, so it's very fragmented. Everybody's on these different pricing plans and different billing plans. That's where outsourcing it with someone like VMOX. And VMOX, they're shooting for like high-end enterprise. So I believe their number is more like 200 devices. But he tells me all the time, Chris, if it's a good company, a good vertical, or something that's got growth potential, yes, they're flexible. But yeah, you're looking at least 100 devices, to 200 with VMOX. But like Wireless Watchdogs, I think Go Exceed will play in those lower spaces.
Does that answer the question, Mike?
Kind of. Not really want a good answer. I mean, it's a very
Well, really. So our marketing push will be to small, mid, and large companies. So what I want to be careful with is I do want to put some idea of how many devices we'll want to do an evaluation to drop savings there. So the example I will give will be 150 devices or so.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want somebody with 3 mobile phones coming back saying, hey, can you save me 20% on my mobility spend? I don't want to waste everybody's time.
No. Well, the one thing I didn't mention is we have a mobility team. Thank you. You jarred us a memory there. At wireless@telarus.com, or again, going through your normal sales cycle, but wireless@telarus.com. we have 5 people we've hired that used to work for the carriers. So we oftentimes do, they might not be a managed mobility solution, but we can at least look over a bill and go, yeah, that's about as good as it's going to get. Or there are times, we do see stuff, our mobility team go, look, yeah, they're on a really old contract. They've had this account for 10 years. They're overpaying. Of course, we know the suppliers won't lower your bill. They'll just keep charging you whatever you contracted 10 years ago. So our team can go, hey, actually, T-Mobile has a promotion now where they can get this and this for $10 a month, whatever. So sometimes we can help. We in fact, our mobility team does more 10 or less devices than they do big deals, but it's with the carriers direct. The direct carriers will all day long give us that one phone. We could do one phone with all 3 carriers. We're direct with all 3, and Rogers in Canada.
Chris, would it be accurate for him to say, pick the number, let's say it's 100, if you have 100 or more devices, we can do a free audit, and that
Yes.
will usually result in 20 to 30% savings. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And then our suppliers like Wireless Watchdogs and others can do that audit for them.
That's right.
So if I
Okay.
heard you right, if I have a customer with 20 cell phone devices, your mobility team would look at it?
Yes. Yeah. If the complaint is, I think we're paying too much and we're having a bad experience, send it to wireless@telarus.com going, hey, here's a customer's bill. They want to know, can we do anything better?
So if the answer is yes, we have a better option. Are we selling the new carrier through Telarus?
Yes,
So the customer doesn't go back to their carrier, we
that's
take it up
correct. That's correct. Yeah. It becomes your deal.
from AT&T to T-Mobile or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just us friends on the call. I mean, AT&T right now, believe it or not, is killing it with us. I mean, they're the most channel friendly this year. I mean, that could always change. We know that. But the other 2 guys, we're constantly, they're just making it harder and harder. I mean, but that's the beauty of the mobility team. They're your buffer. We're taking all those calls. We're following up on status. We're placing the orders for you. You don't need to log into their portals. I mean, but yeah, that's where the mobility team can come in and help. In fact, if you've never sold through our mobility team, so you see, Whitney, Andrea, she could set up just like an onboarding call to kind of go over all the different compensation, and mobility compensation through the carriers is a lot different. Verizon right now is, only doing like one-time payments, and T-Mobile is doing residual for the first 46 months. I don't know how they land on that number. And AT&T also those smaller residuals for, certain lengths of time, depending on the size of the deal. So there's a lot of variables at play, but that's
Yeah,
where
but
the
it's
mobility team can decipher it for you.
It's a good value add for us, so we're all day asking for their other bills. So to include mobility bills, if you guys will look at them, then, maybe it's a 5-user company, it's small, but if it's a 20-user company, you would look at it, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And
let's give it a try. You can just come through me, CC. And if you want, I'll talk to the mobility team and see if it's worth getting on a call to kind of talk more in depth about
Yeah,
this.
maybe we do a call with Gabby, me and you.
All
Okay,
right.
Boyer, I'd bring Boyer and all that too, but I'd be interested talking to that team.
Okay.
Because today, we're not asking because we think they're too small.
Okay.
now we do a lot of onesie twosies, cell phone deals, with the carriers. Yeah, or even upgrades. Maybe they do have an account already and they just want to run it through you. And again, that's where some of the friction with Verizon, T-Mobile, just to be specific. I mean, their deal reg process, I'm actually on the Verizon partner advisory. I'm the chair for their partner advisory council. So I'm constantly talking to their leadership team going, you want more deals from us, you got to protect us. You got to make sure we're getting paid, and the deal reg is not a 3-week process. It's a maybe at most 2-day process. I mean, waiting 3 weeks to be told if you can work a deal, that's unacceptable. So, and frankly, that's why I will tell you, when it makes sense going through an aggregator is just, it's like going through any other supplier you work with. I mean, I've been to both Granite and Mettel and Go Exceed's offices. I haven't been at the VMOC yet, but I talk to Mike Saxby all the time. If you can make the 4 o'clock call, I'll send out the link and get you, Anton, the recording. But we're going to talk a lot about that whole managed mobility. What does that look like? Where does it make sense? And then we have Data to Go is also going to be on talking about some IoT and just, other cellular connectivity solutions that they're seeing in the space.
I have a question. Chris, I know we're saying 100 users or more really can bring a lot of value. It's kind of the target. So if I'm thinking of my customers that are that size that could potentially have cell phone plans, they're pretty geographically diverse at that point. And they could have, I know it's all cell carriers are different on their coverage, but for somebody who's got locations in Colorado and Florida and Massachusetts and Phoenix and Washington, would you look at splitting different types of phone plans between different carriers? Is it all based on one? Can you talk? Because if you sit here and talk to me about T-Mobile, like I have a bad experience and my head when I think of their unlimited plan. Yeah, it might be cheaper, but how do you overcome that, and how would that process look like?
It's a good question. A couple ways to tackle it. First and foremost, the aggregators, their number one value prop is that exact scenario. You have a national or international entity that needs connectivity. They want it in one bill. Well, that's what MedTel and Granite were built for. I mean, that's their value prop. Our mobility team, yes, we do have some large enterprise customers that will have a large account with Verizon, a large account with AT&T and T-Mobile. So it can be simplified, but to your point, if you have one account with AT&T is not great in every corner of the country, right? So why keep doing that? So take those lines, port them over to where there is a strong carrier, and that's something we're trying to do better with helping partners talk enterprise customers. Enterprise customers want to do business with another enterprise company. That's one of the challenges. If you're a Fortune 500, I never even heard of MedTel. Why would I go with MedTel? Well, MedTel actually does work for the Pentagon. They do work with the Department of Defense. They have, half of the Fortune 500 companies already doing business with them. So there's ways to build up the benefit of working with an aggregator, because you can put all that on one bill. You get one portal. You can suspend SIMs, order phones all through this portal. You have to call a 1-800 number. Working through an aggregator, really, I mean, they've done a great job of handling the pain points that you kind of describe, working directly with them. And by the way, what I love about also another benefit of the aggregators, when we go straight to one of the big three, so we got this big deal we want to do, they're like, oh, our direct team's already working it. When an aggregator does it, because they're an MVNO, they don't see that. They just, all they see is they just submitted a deal for 1,000 SIMs. They don't even know who the end user is. So, they're able to kind of go under the radar on those deals. So there's been times we've been denied a deal reg with a big carrier just to run it through an aggregator, and it goes through without a hitch, and it's a better experience. Good question.
Thank you. No, thank you. So, I mean, to my understanding, CC, it's kind of the exact same if we were doing internet.
I agree.
Really?
It is. It's kind of built off the same model when it comes to the aggregators.
And you're already in front of the customer. So now you're going to ask two more
One
questions.
more, yeah, one or
Yeah.
two questions, really.
Yeah. Another little thing, a partner actually told me, he goes, yeah, anytime I'm at a client's office and I see a clipboard, I ask them, what do they use it for? Because think about it. A clipboard is someone's walking around, checking off lists, looking onto something, inventorying something. Anywhere there's a clipboard, that probably could be a tablet, and it could probably be a sensor. So the refrigeration monitoring example that I use a lot is a great use case. For decades, there's a thermometer in the refrigerator, the walk-in cooler for a restaurant or the hospital. Somebody goes in, looks at it, takes the clipboard down, writes down, 30 degrees, and puts the clipboard back. So when the health department shows up, oh yes, we're tracking temperatures and everything's fine. But obviously that can all be done with a sensor. It can go to a smartphone app where it's measuring it by the second, and you can just email the health department guy the report, and there's no mistakes, because when a lot of human error involved with the first way I described how that used to be done.
Great.
Good. Let me think if there's anything else. Yeah, you kind of nailed it, CC. I mean, just ask that question: how are you handling mobility today? who's auditing your bills, how responsive are the carriers to you. If they use any kind of ticketing system, if they have any kind of internal ticketing system, that's a good sign that they're going to be very open to managed mobility, because they're already looking for solutions to kind of manage and automate this crazy world of mobility. But mobility is going to be a lot easier to sell. IoT is a lot more fun and exciting to sell because it's kind of this emerging new technology. It's been rolling at a slower rate. Mobility's just kind of taken off because, let's face it, I mean, right now each of you probably have at least 2 wireless devices within arm's reach. So that's not going anywhere. But yeah, if I could be of service, check out the podcast. Again, a lot of the suppliers I mentioned, I've interviewed them and I asked the questions, hey, why you? Why should we care? Give me some use cases. Give me some advice. If you were to advise somebody how to sell this product, what would it be? So we have some fun there as well. But I appreciate your time. Anton, is there anything else I can do, or CC?
I think that's a good first step and overview. And then if we want to dig a little deeper into certain areas of this, we certainly will. And CC, I'll get with our mobility team and set something up.
Perfect.
Any other questions that anybody has? All right.
Thank you, team. Go pick up a contract so we can close the week out big.
That's right. Have a great remainder of your week. Take
Thanks.
care.
Thanks, everybody. Come to me if you have any questions, and we'll get them answered.